Andhra Pradesh, India. I am a student pursuing my graduation and simultaneously preparing for civil services examination. What does Islam say about euthanasia, that is ending life to relieve pain and suffering? And what's your view on it? Is it allowed in Islam or not? Euthanasia by definition means putting an end to a life of a person to stop his suffering or to stop the pain. It is also called as mercy killing. There are various different types and categories of euthanasia. As a whole, almost all types of euthanasia are prohibited. Killing anyone just to prevent him from suffering or prevent him from pain, it is prohibited. Allah says in the glorious Quran, in Surah Maida, chapter number 5, verse number 32, if anyone kills any other human being, unless it be for murder or for spreading corruption in the land, it is as though he has killed the whole of humanity. And if anyone saves a human being, it is as though he has saved the whole nation. So based on this verse of the Quran, Surah Maida, chapter 5, verse number 32, killing anyone, murdering anyone for any reason, unless it is if he has killed someone or he has caused corruption in the land, it is as though you have killed the whole of humanity. And murdering someone is the second major sin in Islam. So according to all the fuqahas, all the scholars, mercy killing, almost all the different types, I'll come to the exception later, almost all the different types, they are prohibited. The euthanasia can be broadly classified into two types. One is active euthanasia, one is passive euthanasia. In active euthanasia, maybe a drug is injected in the body or some tablets are given so that the patient dies. In passive euthanasia, no drug is injected, nothing is given, only the equipment, which is life-supporting equipment, it is withdrawn and the person dies. As far as active euthanasia is concerned, there are various different types. You have the direct euthanasia. Direct euthanasia can further be classified into three types. One is where the patient himself tells that he's suffering and he's conscious and he's in pain and he wants to end his life and he requests the doctor or someone else that his life should be ended. That's called as the individual person himself saying direct. Second type is that the patient himself may not be very sane, may not be aware, so the relatives of the patient tells the doctor that please end the life to end his suffering. Or third type may be that the doctor themselves advise that the patient should be put to death, so that the suffering ends, and they inject a drug, etc., so that the patient dies. All these type of direct euthanasia, they are haram and it is prohibited. No human being has the right to take the life of any other human being, unless I give exception, unless he has committed murder, or unless it's in the battlefield, or unless he's caught in corruption, but just because to save him from the suffering, it is not permitted. Number two, the second type can be assisted suicide, where the patient himself wants to end his life or he is advised by someone else how to end his life. This is called assisted suicide, and suicide is prohibited in Islam. And there are various hadith in which the Prophet said that a person who commits suicide, he will be in hellfire. The Prophet also says that if a person stabs himself with a dagger, then he will be put to hellfire and he'll keep on stabbing himself till the end. And there are various hadith. So this will come under suicide and it is prohibited. The other type is indirect, where the doctor is indirect euthanasia, where a doctor may increase the dose of painkillers or some medicine so that the patient dies. This itself is also prohibited. It is nothing but murder. It's haram in Islam. The other type of euthanasia, which I mentioned, is passive euthanasia. Passive euthanasia means actively the patient is not killed, but the patient is on equipment, on life-saving equipment, maybe ventilators, maybe defibrillators, and if this is taken away, the patient will die. So this equipment is taken away, or maybe the treatment is stopped and the patient dies. As far as passive euthanasia is concerned, most of the passive euthanasia is also haram. We cannot voluntarily, purposely stop the treatment to kill the patient. We should try our level best, keep on treating the patient till he dies on his own. You cannot actively stop the treatment or take out the life-supporting equipment unless under one condition. According to the Islamic Fiqh Council of OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, they had a conference and they decided that unless it is known that the Muslim or the person is dead, that's the only time you can remove the life-saving equipment. And there are two ways, this council said, that can be identified that the person is dead. Number one, we can identify that the person is dead. Number one is that if the person, his breathing stops completely and his heart stops and it is irreversible. So if the heartbeat completely stops, it's irreversible, and the breathing stops, it is irreversible, and this is testified by the doctor, then, and especially the Islamic Fiqh Council says it should be 3 doctors, 3 specialists. Then the patient can be claimed to be dead. Or if the patient has brain death. Brain death means the brain has stopped functioning. So if there are at least 3 specialists who have testified that all the functions in the brain of that patient have ceased and necrosis of the brain has started, and yet the heart is beating only because he is kept on the ventilators and the supporting equipment, in this condition, and the doctor says it's irreversible brain death and the functions can never return, and if 3 doctors certified, in this case only can the life-saving equipment be removed. So if the patient is brain dead and yet his heart is beating, he is breathing because of the supporting equipment like ventilators, etc., these can be removed if it's certified by 3 specialist doctors that it is an irreversible brain death. In this condition, this will also be called as one type of passive euthanasia. So this is the only condition where passive euthanasia is permitted, when the patient is certified as dead or as brain death. And no other condition, just to stop his suffering or to stop his pain, can euthanasia be done. It's only this condition where the brain death is done, and when 3 specialists say it's irreversible, that's the only time passive euthanasia or passive mercy killing can be done.